Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here for interactive writing in grades pre-K to 1. Today's resources can be found at this tiny URL. When you open up that tiny URL, you're going to come across a document, 2-column document that gives you full access to today's slide deck, along with several of the resources that I'll be talking about today in the session, just in a nice handy list for you, so you don't have to sift and sort through the slide deck necessarily to find them. All right, with that, I think we will go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Bridget Regan. I'm a Wayne RESA literacy consultant. As you can see, I'm a pretty new to the doctor title there, recent MU as Madonna University graduate. Defended my dissertation on literacy coaching and efficacy just this past April. Really glad it's done. I learned a lot. If you ever want a consult, it's something you're thinking about doing, give me a call. I'd be happy to share with you a bit more about my experience and what I learned. You can see some of my passion areas listed there. I am very passionate about curriculum coherence and really ensuring that guaranteed and viable curriculum for all students. That's some of the work I do with our districts. Instructional rounds, collective efficacy, and of course the literacy essentials, which we're going to be taking a small sliver of that today. So here is our agenda. We're going to start with some welcome and housekeeping items. As you can see, we're going to move into defining interactive writing, and we're going to talk about, kind of what it is and what it isn't a little. Sometimes that helps us. We're going to connect to the research, of course, and then see it in action, right? I found that as I've worked with teachers over the last 5 years since I've been at RESA, seeing it in action really is beneficial. We're going to see some images of interactive writing, and hopefully those images will help get you thinking about how this might look in your own classroom. And then finally, I'm going to share with you some extended learning opportunities. So the hour is going to go very fast, I can assure you of that. So interactive writing, what is it? Authors define it in different ways, but generally speaking, this definition that I came across from Roth and Dabrowski really is a nice synthesis of what it is. So bear with me as I read it and invite you to follow along. So interactive writing is a dynamic instructional method during which the teacher serves as the expert writer for students as they work together to construct a meaningful text while simultaneously discussing the details of the writing. And you can see this comes directly from their text. This resource that you see on the page is going to be one that I definitely recommend you all pick up. It's a wonderful resource from 2016. Even though our session today focuses really on the earlier grades, this text does go a bit deeper and takes the learning a bit further. A few things that I would add to interactive writing. What makes it particularly powerful is that it really helps students with both the encoding and their decoding process, because students are able to transfer those skills as they have that teacher working right alongside them. Sometimes folks will ask, interactive writing, is it whole class? Is it small group? Is it one-on-one? The answer is all three. Any of the above. We're going to watch an example today where a teacher is engaging with small groups, but it certainly can be done with a whole class as well. It just takes a bit more management on the part of the teacher and thinking through what the other students are doing. So as I just mentioned a moment ago, I would really recommend this resource. It's a pretty comprehensive resource. Take a peek at that. So some of you are thinking, all right, Bridget, I've heard you say that definition of interactive writing. That sounds like shared writing to me, where the teacher and the students are working together. Yes, but here's perhaps a visual to help you see some of the differences. So in shared writing, you can see that the students are talking, right? Most definitely. And the teacher is doing the writing correctly, right? So the students are taking on more of the ownership of what's being written typically, or what the actual composition of the sentences will be, whether students are writing a sentence or two. As you get into the upper grades, it might be more sentences or a text that's composed over several days. But in interactive writing, the teacher and the students are actually sharing the pen, right? The teacher invites the students throughout the experience to come up and try on some of the writing. And that's where the expertise of the teacher comes in. And this is where assessment also comes in. The teachers really need to know the different letter patterns, letter sounds, and words, as well as conventions that they've already been teaching the students, and then giving students the opportunity to apply and practice those. And we'll see that when we watch the lesson again that we're going to observe in a little bit. So it's quite a bit of in the moment decision making on the part of the teacher. So the biggest differences between the two, interactive writing and shared writing, is that idea that it's interactive between teacher and student, and that the students are doing more of the writing with some guidance from the teacher. Of course, it's really important that we connect things to research. So hopefully these look familiar to you, these two images on the screen. These come from GELN, which stands for General Education Leadership Network, and that's a collaborative here in the state of Michigan. And these documents really serve as the driving force for literacy education in our state. These two documents you see here are just two in a suite of several. And the exciting news that I'm here to share today is that these are brand new, kind of hot off the press and updated, just as of June 2023. So on the left-hand side, you see the pre-kindergarten essential practices, and on the right-hand side, the cover for the K-3 essential practices. What these practices are just that, the essential practices that are evidence-based, meaning based on research that's actually proven to work, right? Not just somebody's idea. They've actually found research and actual studies that have said these things have been proven to boost student achievement. And therefore, they landed in these documents. So they become action items, if you will, for us as teachers as we're making those decisions in our classrooms. So if we zoom in for a moment on the pre-K through 1, pre-K literacy essential number 6, which is specifically focused on writing. You'll see essential 6 says interactions around writing. Yes, I know there's a lot of print on this page. What I'm going to invite you to do is to zoom in on that first bullet on the left-hand side that starts with interactive writing. And this is where you're going to get involved in our session here a little bit today. And welcome if you're just joining us. I know a few of you have just jumped in. If you're here on the call, what I'd like you to do is read through that first bullet point with interactive writing. And hopefully you have something to jot with next to you. As you read it, I'd like you to make a list of 3 or 4 words or phrases that jump out to you as you read that first bullet point. I'll pause and give everybody just about 90 seconds to do that. All right, off you go. Go ahead and make a list, 3 to 4 keywords and phrases. All right, when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to start listing those in the chat. Please put each word or phrase as a separate entry so we can see those come flying in. All right, here we go. So I'm seeing jointly compose, teacher leads and guides, composing, contributing, involving children, contribution, developmental strengths. Let's keep them coming. Modeling. Starting to notice some patterns here. Jointly composing text, right? I think that's the big idea here. Involving children. This is great. Kids stretch. Developmental strengths. right? So those developmental strengths really come into play in the moment for the teacher. So as they're making decisions about which words they're going to have children come up and take turns writing versus those words that the teacher themselves are going to go ahead and write. That's where knowing the developmental strengths of kids really is important, and where your assessment comes in. All right, we'll take about 15 more seconds. Let's keep them coming in. Teacher support, jointly composed. All right, great job, everybody. Thank you for that. Let's now take a peek at this essential here is essential 6 in the kindergarten through 3rd grade. Again, you'll notice revised June of 23. The big standard, the big essential at the top is that research and standards align writing instruction on a daily basis and across content areas in the school day. Interactive writing can do that. It can be used for many purposes across your entire school day. I'm going to invite you to zoom in on the first bullet point there, which is what we're talking about today. And as you're reading that, I'm going to invite you to pick out a word or phrase or two that stand out to you there. And go ahead and drop those in the chat as well. Hopefully you're making some connections across the pre-K to the K3 as well. All right, explicit teaching, teacher-led, developmental strengths, modeling. Wonderful. Some of those same keywords and phrases are popping up again. At jointly composed again. All right, we'll take about 10 more seconds. Based on students' needs, modeling, explicit teaching. All right, and if you could bring your entries to a close. Thank you for that. I really want to encourage folks, if you've not seen these documents, on your resource sheet, you have links to the Literacy Essentials website. You can go there at literacyessentials.org. And what I shared with you so far was really just a glimmer. So I'm sure if you've been in education, even just this last year or so, we've been hearing a lot about this idea of the science of reading, right? The science of reading. So I'd like to include this in all of the work that I do, because I think there's been some confusion around what we mean by science of reading. And perhaps that we need to be abandoning lots of practices that we've been doing. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. If you're following the literacy essentials are the science of reading, as illustrated by this graphic here, because science of reading is really a term that simply means this. It means that it's a group of studies based upon scientific research done in education about reading and all things related to reading. And so everything that has landed in the literacy essentials is exactly that. Those things that have been proven to work through evidence, through classroom actual studies where researchers have looked to see, does this work or not? And so if you're following the literacy essentials, and in this case, teaching and using interactive writing in your classroom, you are following the science of reading. Now we could get, into the weeds and start talking about decodables and leveled text and all those things. It's not quite what this session is about today. But I do have another session coming up later this year. If that's something you want to dig in a little further. But just know that if you're worried, if your principal or your district leaders are saying you have to teach things with the science of reading and you're not sure if interactive writing is, it most certainly is. And you can turn your colleagues and your district leaders to the literacy essentials as evidence of that, so that you're making that connection. Here's another research based article that was an actual study about interactive writing instruction. This is far too lengthy for us to digest today at this time during the session, but I'm really going to encourage you perhaps to make this your bedside reading tonight. This study is fascinating, and it is grounded in several social cultural theories about learning to read and how children acquire language and literacy. And so it's very well done, and it will help reinforce everything that we're going to talk about and that you're going to see today. So I encourage you to do that. And then, of course, it comes from ILA, a very reputable international literacy group. So we've talked about kind of what it is. Here's what interactive writing is, step by step. So I'm going to pause and just give everyone about 60 seconds to read these steps. All right, if you have your phones handy, I'm going to encourage you to take a picture of this so that you have these steps. I know you're getting access to the whole slide deck, but it might also be helpful for you to have this page, this slide in a minute when we're actually watching the video. That's going to come up in a minute. So as you see, this is pretty step by step, right? We're starting with, none of this probably surprises you. You've probably done something very similar in your classroom. Where you're creating that shared experience, making a determination about what you're going to write about. Then the teacher and the students consider their purpose and their audience, and they decide what that's going to be. So are they going to make a list to write? Is it going to be something they put in a book over time and they're going to be adding pages to it? What form is the writing going to take? And then from there, the teacher leads a discussion with the students around crafting the actual sentence or sentences that are going to be written. Usually when you're getting started with interactive writing and pre-K and K and 1, you're starting with a single sentence, right? And you're kind of working to negotiate that. So you might say things to students like, ooh, is there another word that we might try instead of the word good, right? So that you're elevating the type of written text that's actually being composed. Once you've negotiated that sentence, and we're going to see this in a few minutes in the video, you actually start doing the composing. The teacher and the student share the pen. And as I've mentioned already, the teacher makes those decisions along the way, kind of knowing where kids are at developmentally, what they're able to take on their own, and what they might need a little support with along the way. When that sentence or a couple of sentences are completed, then as a class you review. This is where the encoding and decoding come together, because students are able to get that opportunity to practice decoding as a class what they've written. And it will help reinforce not only their decoding skills, but also this provides the teacher with the opportunity to reinforce some of those conventions about print, such as things like, did you notice that we remembered to keep spaces between our words? And did you notice that we ended our sentence with punctuation? In this case, it's a question mark. Boys and girls, why did we use a question mark? Those kinds of things to help students, to help reinforce that. And then extending, consider how the piece might be used in the future. Sometimes in the purpose, the purpose is often the students and the teacher negotiate that they're going to write something for another audience, perhaps another teacher in the school or for the principal. And so at the extension point, it gives you a time to talk about that. Another extension might be that perhaps you've created a class day by day, an anchor chart of some of the important things that need to happen on the playground. And so as a class, you've decided that you're going to hang up that chart in the classroom for the students to use. So those are the step-by-step ways for interactive writing. And now I'm going to invite you to find another piece of paper, or maybe flip over if you've been jotting some notes, and to make a T-chart. And on the T-chart, you're going to have two columns. What is the teacher saying and doing in the left-hand column, and what you notice the students saying and doing in the right-hand column. And we're going to take the next 8 or 9 minutes to watch this video. This comes from the K-3 Literacy Essentials, and we're going to see interactive writing in a small group setting. Remember that interactive writing can occur one-on-one as you're working with kids on their writing, or it can even be whole group. But for today, for this example, we're going to see it in a small group. So Jeff, if you could let me know, please, if the volume is good, and here we go.
When teachers provide research and standards-aligned writing instruction, they support students' literacy learning. In this classroom, students are participating in an interactive writing experience.
So do you remember last week when we were talking about how we need to be caring at school and how we need to remember to treat our friends at school? And you all shared some different ways that we can show that we are caring at school. I was thinking that maybe we could write down one of those ways and we could make a sign that we could post in the hallway. And then that way people would have a reminder of strategies for showing how they're caring. So how can we make a sign that reminds people to use kind words? What's a sentence we could say that would help people remember to use kind words when they're at school? Think for a second. Kylie, what do you think? Can you think of a sentence?
Be kind and be friends.
Be kind and be friends. The interactive writing lesson I'm going to do with a small group of children, we will write a message together. I've chosen to focus on the topic of caring at our school because it's something we've been talking about in our classroom. And last week, children generated ideas for how we could remind people to be caring at school and what it means to be caring. We're going to make a sign reminding people that we want to be kind and use kind words at school. So I will work with them to actually generate the sentence. We'll generate it together and then sort of decide on what it is. And then once we have the sentence, I will support them in hearing the sounds and the words and writing down as they can. So I will do some of the writing and they will do some of the writing. So let's say that. Let's see. How about say kind words at school? Can you say that sentence? Let's say it together. Say kind words at school. So we can, yeah, it has 5 words, that's right. And we could make a sign that says say kind words at school. So that's what we're gonna work on, and we'll take turns like we've done this before. Can you please pick a marker, Kylie? So it's a way for them to engage in writing that's beyond what they could write independently. And at the same time, it's good practice because the way we're doing it, saying the sentence over and over again, stretching out the words, making the sounds, listening for the sounds is how they're going to start writing when they are doing some independent writing using approximated spelling. So as a group, I'm supporting them in participating in an activity that eventually they will do independently, and it's a great opportunity for that kind of guided practice. So let's say our sentence again. Say kind words at school. So say. What do you hear? Oh, C can make that sound, but also S makes that sound. Layla, do you remember how to write an S? You want to start us off? Where would we start? Where do we start when we're writing the first word of a sentence? We're going to start over here. Yep. Can you make an S? So Layla wrote our S. I'm going to write the rest of that word. Say. So I will do some of the writing and they will do some of the writing based on their ability to hear some sounds in words and the letter sound relationships that they know and can write down. And then I'll also do some supporting for the parts of words that either aren't pronounced or that they don't know, or this, at pre-K, they're not paying much attention to medial sounds in words. And so it will mainly focus on initial sounds, maybe some ending sounds as well. Say kind words at school. So say kind is our next word.
K.
Yeah, just like Kylie, right? Hold on, Kylie. Remember, we're going to skip a space. And then can you write that K for us for kind? Oh, yeah, okay. Say kind. I'm going to write some more of that word. I'm going to write the middle of that word. Let's say it again. Kind. Kind.
K.
T. You hear a T? Kind.
T.
Like, that's a D, like dog. Yeah, D. That's right. D makes that sound. Can you make a D, Titan? It's okay. Do you remember what it looks like? Yep, you can make a capital. It's okay. Long line, big curve. Okay, let's say our sentence again. Say it with me. Say kind words at school. Words. Words.
D. Yo. D.
You know what? Word starts like window. And that's a W.
W.
Yeah. So Titan, can you make a W? I am writing the rest of that word. So here, let's see what we have. Say kind words. Let's say our sentence. Say kind words at school. Interactive writing with pre-K kids is a really great opportunity to practice early print concepts like directionality of print and one-to-one correspondence, matching one spoken word to one word on the page. And it's a special opportunity, too, to practice the sound-letter relationships that the children are learning. They can share the pen with me, and so in that way, they're supported in writing something that is beyond what they could write independently. At. Like apple. What letter is that?
A.
Yeah, Layla. Can you make an A for us? Remember, we're going to skip the space after the word, and you put the A right here. So move your marker over. That's great. Remember, words have spaces between them. School. That's just like say, right? Just like sun. What letter is that? An S. Say kind words at school. I'm going to write the middle of that word school. Let's listen to see if we can hear the end. It's got S at the beginning. Let's hear what's at the end. What's at the end, Titan? In a second, Kylie. Like lion. Do you remember? Yes, that's right. So let's read our sentence. Remember, we point to words when we read. Say kind words at school. All right, Titan, you do it. Can you point and read each word of this sentence? Say, right here, kind. Words is down here. At school. And we'll put a period because a sentence has a period at the end. It's especially important that they're authors of a message for an authentic purpose. So we're not just writing something to be writing, but we're actually thinking about what ways can writing help us in our lives and in our lives at school, and making a sign that reminds people to be caring at school is a great authentic purpose for that. And so they have a sense of themselves as authors and creating this important message, and then will eventually hang it up. And so they know that their writing has meaning and is important. So friends, now that we've made our sign, say kind words at school, what could we do with it? Where could we put it so it might help people remember?
Out there, we can make lots of signs and put them everywhere in the school.
Learn more at Literacy Essentials.
Okay, aren't they so cute? Those little pre-K kids. Love it. That was probably in the spring, I'm thinking. So maybe getting close to kindergarten. Here's what I'd like to invite you to do now. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. I'm going to invite you to review your T-chart or your notes, whatever you, however you chose to do it. It's okay if you didn't make a T-chart. And I'd like you to make a new list of the 3 things that really stood out to you. What was most essential to you as you observed the lesson? No right or wrong answers there. just what stood out to you, kind of where you are in your learning. After you make that list of 3, circle one that you're going to share. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that task. Here we go. Okay, I'm seeing some of you already populate your thinking into the chat. Thank you for doing that. If you haven't started that already, please go ahead and drop that in. Perhaps the one thing that really stood out to you the most, activated prior knowledge. I'm seeing using knowledge and guiding the instruction. If you've already entered yours, take a minute and scroll through to see what your colleagues have gleaned as well. I'm seeing quite a few of you lifting the idea that there was an authentic purpose for writing, right? That the teacher was guiding, there was some scaffolding, building off their knowledge, respect was shown, right? And it really took little preparation, I'd like to add, right? Like that was in the moment teaching, really some of the best teaching. All right, we're gonna watch an example now. We won't be able to watch the entire clip, so I'm going to forward through, let you see some of the beginning. But this clip is actually comes from the Michigan Department of Education, and it's a grade 1 example. So I want you to see how this can look with kids even a little bit older. The task is the same for you. Make a T-chart if you like. What is the teacher saying and doing? What are the students saying and doing? And then if we have time, we'll share a few things as well. Again, we won't get through this whole clip, but you'll have access to all of this after.
So today I'm going to be leading an interactive writing lesson with a group of 4 first graders. And interactive writing is a great instructional technique for addressing a lot of the foundational skills that are in the Michigan standards. So there's a lot that we can cover on letter sound knowledge, on concepts of print, directionality, that sort of thing that can be really helpful and embedded and contextualized in an interactive writing lesson. You ready? So I hear that you're first graders, right? And you're really, really good writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to do some writing together. That's why I have this sheet here. It's ready to go. It already has my name on it, Ms. Schutz. Can you say that? Ms. Schutz. All right. And we're going to put your names on it as well. All right. So what is your name again?
Andre.
Andre. How do you spell your name, Andre?
A.
Uh-huh.
N.
Yeah, so here he is. That's him. And I said, oh no, like when you get older and you go to school, you actually learn a lot of things. And it's not about just playing. So do you think that together we could think of one thing that you do in school and we could write so that I could take it home to my son and I could show him what it is that you as first graders do at school? Yeah? We could write a message for him? Yeah? So think in your head quickly. What is something that you do at school in your class? So all of you have to do this. So think first. Think. When you have an idea, give me a quiet thumb. Quiet thumb right in front of your belly. Okay. So could we write, we put pop rocks in pop, and then we'll see where we are there. Maybe we'll write another sentence after that. So how about we put pop rocks in pop? Does that work? Yeah? Say that sentence with me. We put pop rocks in pop. Say that again. Ready? We put pop rocks in pop. Let's see if you guys can do it on your own.
We can.
Remember, you're telling me what already happened.
We
Put, so up, let's go back. We put pop rocks in pop. Right? All right, let's try it one more time.
We put
Pop rocks in pop. Okay. How many words are we going to write? Let's try it.
I know.
Can you count while we're saying the sentence? Try it on your fingers. Ready? We put Pop rocks in pop. How many?
6.
You all have 6 fingers up. All right, are you ready to start? What's the first word we're going to write here? What's the first word, Andre? We. Okay, so we're starting a sentence. What do we need to make sure we do? Yeah?
Uppercase.
Uppercase letter. All right. So you can write we right there. Eyes right here, Caleb. Let's watch your friend write. So you have that uppercase W, right? What comes next?
And then E.
Yeah. E, right? So we, right? So let's go back. Let's read this. What does it say? We put. How does that start? Yeah. P. Okay, up. Hold on 1 second. I want to show something that you're doing. Did you see what Caleb did? He actually left a space right here. He didn't even need to put his finger down to put that space, right? So you have put. You know that word, don't you? Okay, so let's be careful. Remember, when we start that T, we're going to start.
Okay, we're going to pause there. I'm going to invite you to do the same thing, but this time give you just a minute or so. What did you notice the teacher saying and doing and the students saying and doing in this example? Go ahead and start jotting some things. And I'm going to get our slide deck pulled back up for us.
Start up here, and we're going to go.
And when you're ready, go ahead and jot a few things in the chat or just one idea. Something that you noticed, perhaps it was the same as the other teacher or something that was a little different. Okay, that repetition of words, a lot of repetition of the sentence. Let's talk for a minute about that, why the teacher chose to do that, right? Sometimes at this age, or with kids that are perhaps striving readers or striving writers, remembering the sentence can be tricky for them, right? So she provided them with a scaffold by kind of counting those words, telling the story, in this case, the sentence across their hand. So that can be a nice scaffold that can be used, right? The counting words and so on, right? All right, really making sure that here someone says the teacher really set that purpose, gave them an invitation. Wonderful. Okay, thank you for all of those things. So here are some visual examples of what you might consider with interactive writing. In this case, you can see 2 examples from the playground. So perhaps in your classroom, you might be creating either a class book or posters of the routines and expectations that kids will be doing on the playground. Another example, this could be extending some learning from perhaps a unit in science where they're talking about fall and really getting to use some of those content words. And if you look closely, you'll notice that in the first sentence at the top, that leaves is most likely written completely by the teacher. But as the word is being repeated through this shared text that they've composed together, now you can see that the teacher has turned it over to the student. So you see evidence of the gradual release right within this same piece. That's pretty powerful. We also got to see in the video, both of the videos, the teachers reinforcing those conventions of print, spaces between words. And again, that's evident here as well. Here's another example. I know this picture is a little busy, but if you look close at the top, you can see this is our beach, and I think they're saying vacation, right? And they're doing a shared experience here around their time at the beach. You might also compose some text after a read aloud, and here connecting to students' lives as well. So on the left-hand side, they read Pete the Cat, a good favorite in our primary grades, and the kinds of things that the kids might see, right, on the school bus. And then on the right-hand side, it looks like there's a text set all around pumpkins. And I would imagine that this text was possibly composed over a couple of days. It maybe wasn't done in one setting, but this is an example of how this could look whole class. One of the things you have to consider as a teacher when you're doing examples like this whole class, typically one student is coming up and sharing the pen, right? They're getting the opportunity to write. So you might be thinking, okay, so what are the rest of the kids doing, right? We didn't really see that in the small group because the groups were small. The teacher was able to engage them all. But if you're doing this with whole class, one thing you might consider, you'd have to be pretty brave to do this and really have some strong management set up, but the rest of your class could have whiteboards. So while the student is up perhaps writing, let's say in this example, the letter C and the word can on the anchor chart on the right, or maybe they're writing the whole word can, the class is also practicing that on their whiteboard, you know, as they're seated right on their laps. If you don't want to give every student a whiteboard, another example is to have them write it in the air or on the back of their hand, right? We know the importance of letter sound relationships and giving kids those kinesthetic opportunities and a chance to try that on as well. So those are some ways to think about engaging the whole class if you were doing it in a whole class lesson. Here's a few more examples after a read aloud. And you can see the story about the pirates, how I became a pirate, and then that was Bucket Filler's book. And with these examples, I really wanted to point out how the teacher has drawn a line, that black line across. So she's provided a practice space for the students. So when you call that student up, and this is where your assessment data and your knowledge about what your students know and what they don't know really comes into play. So perhaps you had taught the letter D, right, and the lowercase d, and that was a whole class lesson. And you know that one of your students was really struggling perhaps to really master that and take that letter to fluency. You might purposely call that student up to the chart to give them the chance to practice it first up top and then apply it in text, right? So they're getting that direct experience right in the moment. So I like to share this example with people as well. All right, so believe it or not, we're actually coming to a close here pretty soon. So we're going to take another 2 minutes. I'm going to set the timer, and perhaps these examples you've seen are getting your brain going with some ways that you might use interactive writing to start your school year. So what I'd like you to do is think about that read aloud text that you're planning to use right in late August or early September. Think about your routines and procedures that you know that you're going to have to teach, and start to make a list and make a commitment to one lesson that you're going to try in an interactive writing way. All right, we're going to go ahead and take 2 minutes. So go ahead, think and ink. Make as big of a list as you can. At the end of the 2 minutes, I'll be asking you to share just one example, and hopefully we'll get some new ideas that haven't already been lifted. All right, off you go, 2 minutes. Okay, if you could bring your writing to a close and go ahead and jot down your idea that you think you're going to try right in September. And after you've entered yours in, I'd like to invite you to read some of the other ones in the chat because these are some great ideas. So Becky's sharing her idea with first, with each letter, we make a list of words that start with the letter of the day, and children can write the words that begin, or even just the child's name. Read aloud. Perhaps using some of this in a writing center. Okay, specific to the first day jitters, right? Writing the classroom contract in an interactive way. Great idea. Class constitution. Remember, one of the key things with interactive writing is that the teacher is there to explicitly share the pen. So if you're going to do it in a writing center, I'm going to invite you to think around how that might look in an interactive way. Might there be an opportunity for you as the teacher to drop into the writing center, right? Instead of you writing all the writing routines, having the students make them around their posters. On posters, these are all great ideas. Name tags for lockers, right? They can do their own. One of the things that I've seen along with that, the idea of name tags for lockers, how about labels just for your classroom, right? So you could have classroom library could be one, and you could have small index cards or sentence strips that are cut out, and you could do 5 or 6 labels a day. Morning message, invitations, thank yous. Thank you notes are a great way to do it. One of the kindergarten teachers that I worked with years ago had a student of the day. At the beginning of the school year, each student had a day where they were the student of the day. And the interactive writing piece was all about that student. So that's a really fun way to do it too. These are great ideas. Love it, everybody. Thank you so much for all of those. Hopefully you've gleaned some things in today's session. We're just going to wrap up here with a couple of announcements. There are some extended learning opportunities for you focused specifically on interactive writing. I did some vetting of a couple of blog posts that really connect to the research. That's one of the things, as tempting as it is to go to Teachers Pay Teachers. I want to remind everybody that Teachers Pay Teachers is not vetted by or backed by any type of research. So you have to do your own vetting. So with any resource you get, I'd encourage you to kind of stack it up against the literacy essentials, because as we learned earlier, the literacy essentials are the science of reading and are evidence-based and based on research. So a couple of blog posts for you. The text, of course, I mentioned earlier. If you really want to dig deep, you can enroll in the early literacy modules specifically to writing. You don't have to do all 10. Sometimes people ask that. You can enroll in just one. And then there's another video that I've linked there for you. Some other extended learning opportunities. I will be hosting these sessions in the fall, and these are free. They're from 4:30 to 5:30 every day, and they're an introduction to each of the K-3 literacy essentials. The first one starts October 3rd, and then I'm hosting approximately 2 a week through October and into early November until we get to all 10. So I'm going to have Jeff drop that link in the chat for you. Again, that's the intro to the essential practices. They're all free and they earn you 1 sketch for attending live. In the case of these, unlike today, you do have to attend live these sessions. So if you attended all 10, you'd end up with 10 more sketches. So I'd love to see you there. Please share it with your colleagues as well. That would also be great for new teachers. And I'll be, unveiling some of the new things in the essentials. I'm also doing a full day workshop in person on this demystifying the science of reading. This one does cost a little money, but you'll notice that it includes your lunch and you get a copy of the book, Shifting the Balance. So it's pretty worth it, along with all the handouts. It's not until February. So there's plenty of time. Again, I'd love to see you there. I'll be facilitating that session. Next Monday, I'm actually hosting another Blitz session, somewhat linked to today's topic, really focused on foundational skills. And I'll be joined by my colleague, Colleen Whalen. There's still room to register for that, so please think about signing up for that one. And then, of course, here's our full calendar of summer Blitz for the rest of the summer. I kicked it off today with interactive writing, and you can see we're going, all the way through the 31st. Topics really spanning K-12. So we'd love to see you there and encourage you to share. These are all free, and they all earn you a sketch, and then you will get the recording as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you for attending today. You've been a great audience. Thanks for participating in the polls and such. On the screen, you will see my contact information. Please feel free to take a picture or jot it down. I'd be happy to help you and guide you in the right direction if you need some support with resources. Additionally, sometimes folks don't know if you're in Wayne County, the services, we can come to schools directly and provide some direct consulting for you as well. So if you'd like to brainstorm around that, we can come, work with your staff at a school or perhaps even your whole district. So thanks so much for being here, everyone, and have a great afternoon.